Okay, it says that we're live, so I got to assume that we're live. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome again. Welcome. I actually should put a poll up on live stream. I meant to put a poll, but I haven't put a poll here first. Let me just see what I can do. How do you put a poll on these things? And how do you get the camera to be just where you want it to be? How is everybody? It's 8 degrees centigrade here in Nam. What's the weather like where you are? We'll do the weather report as we always do. We will get on to talking about movies. All that's going to happen. But we do the weather report first. Hi, Dick. How you doing? How are things in Dover? Lots and lots of stuff happening here in Australia. Mostly weird political stuff I'm not going to talk about on this live stream. But I'm just going to bring up my letterbox because I will talk about some stuff I've been watching of late. And there's been a lot. I've gone on a binge, which is what I'm prone to do. Hi, DB. It's sunny and warm. Yeah, warm's a relative term. Warm to you ain't warm to me. But I understand what you mean, Dick. DB Cooper, yeah, hi, how's it going? For Sale says it's an absolutely beautiful day in Connecticut. Hi, Peter, how you doing? Yep, so the gang's here, and hopefully we'll get more of them too, because we've got 7 at the moment, and that hopefully will pick up. This live stream is about, I'm going to basically do my best and worst of the first half of the year, because the solstice has happened, which is terrific. And that means that the days are going to start getting warmer, which is even more terrific. And the days are going to start getting longer, which is just the best. So it's on the upswing for us, which I really appreciate. Yes, I know there's thermal inertia and it's going to get colder before it gets hotter, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to have fun. Hi, Jay. How you doing? Good afternoon from Washington State. I do like Washington State. It's got to be one of my top 3 favorite areas of the United States. 96 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny in Albuquerque, says Patrick. Cool. Oh, yep. Albuquerque, nice town, very art town, isn't it? It's got a lot of arts and crafts and creative people there. Fantastic. I do like a good culturally rich place. Forgot where I put the fart gun, so I've got to get the fart gun ready for any super chats. Yeah, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm listing my best and worst, and I've got a third category, which for me is probably the most relevant one, and that is the movies that were surprisingly satisfying that I saw for the first time in the first half of this year. Because that category covers a lot of ground, and it covers it much better than a binary best and worst. And I think that's the one, surprisingly satisfying, is a category I'm going to embrace a lot more than before I thought it up. Peter says, so cold I had to unstick a dragonfly from my kitchen window here in Adelaide. Yeah, that's cold. I haven't actually been to Adelaide in winter. I've been to Adelaide in all the other seasons, but I haven't been to Adelaide in winter. But I do love the place, and I know some great people there. I know people pretty much everywhere in Australia. I cover the waterfront. I even know people in North Queensland, the deep north, F&Q they call it, far North Queensland, with an emphasis on the effing. But yeah, so the surprisingly satisfying category is really the good one for me. I'm going to start with that. I'm going to basically go through that, and while still relating to the chat. The first one that's in the surprisingly satisfying category, I'm going to bring up the details here, is a movie from 2016 that I missed. For some reason, missed my radar, did not really hit. And it was directed by a guy called Nacho Villalondo, which is a great name. And it's called Colossal. And it stars Anne Hathaway, Jason Sudeikis, Dan Stevens, underrated actor. Tim Blake Nelson's in there as well. It's about a woman called Gloria who is psychically linked to a kaiju in South Korea. And the kaiju appears when she does certain things and basically mimics her actions. Really interesting movie, bold concept, but it was surprisingly satisfying. The third act twist really nailed it. It hit well. It was foreshadowed without telling us it was being foreshadowed. But Colossal, I know I've seen a copy of it somewhere in a thrift store, like an op shop here. I'm going to pick up a copy of Colossal when I can because it's one of those ones that is surprisingly satisfying. Carol says, going to get very warm here in the UK this week. Just got back from holiday in Hampshire. Visited Chichester Cathedral. Was amazing. Yeah, you guys have got a lot more amazing churches than we do. We've got a lot of brutalist architecture churches. We do have some classic ones, but I don't tend to visit them. I mean, I've visited churches in other countries. I mean, I've been to Notre Dame with Sal, but yeah, they get all the best real estate, don't they? That, which, of course, historically is relevant. But if we were starting a new city, the last place I put a church is on top of a hill. I put a school there or something interesting or something culturally enriching rather than a, a castle to superstition. But that's just me. I've actually been thinking about rearranging the world. Just got to get people on board with me doing it. I think I've thought of some improvements to do in the world that would not hurt people. Above all else, it would not hurt people. D. Lee says, hot where I am. Yep. And churches don't pay taxes. You're right, for sale. Absolutely. Carol says, we'll be posting my photos soon so you can see. Visited lots of charity shops. Watch out for Richard's haul videos. Yep. Richard, on his YouTube channel, it's Dick Powers Presents, does lots and lots of hauls. He is good at scrounging shit from op shops, really. And the stuff that's there, the stuff that people are essentially giving away, astounds me. There's just so much good cinema there, and of course, people do drop off the twig, and their families give away a lot of stuff to op shops, charity stores, and that's the way it goes. But I like the fact that there's a part of cultural history which is available for just a couple of bucks if you just walk down to the shop. There's something about that I really appreciate as well, and it's not for everybody. And younger people, of course, have more storage constraints than some of us who have houses. And I realise that's a limitation. But I was talking on Facebook with a friend. Her internet went down. She lives in Canberra. Her internet went down. So she blew the dust off her DVD collection and started watching those. And had a good time with it. Revisited some favourites. But the internet was going to be down for a day or so. And so she dipped into the good stuff. DB Cooper says, any idea when your nephew is coming to visit you again? I don't know. He's currently old enough to start his driving lessons. He's been doing driving lessons, which is good, which means like 2 or 3 years from now, he can drive himself down to Melbourne. We don't have to pick him up at the airport. But he's going well. It'll probably be later this year when the weather gets a little bit less shitty. But we will liaise with the parental objects and see when Billy can come down. Deb, morning all. It's the nude solstice swim for Dark Mofo Festival this morning in Nipaluna, currently 4 degrees. Yeah, just to explain what Deb's talking about there. Part of Dark Mofo, which is the big arts festival in winter down in Nipaluna, Hobart, a whole bunch of people go to this beach and do a nude swim in the middle of winter because they're fucking insane. And so they go out in the water, splash around, come back again. It becomes a big news item with the cameras mounted very far away so you can't see all the good bits. But yeah, the nude swim is an annual thing for Dark Mofo. They're mad down there. They go mad in the wintertime. Carol says, been looking for street art and architecture after watching your travel vids and a photographer on YouTube too. Yeah, I love a good bit of street art. I really want to get around and do all of the silo art, which is done on the wheat silos up in rural Victoria. Just about every wheat silo in a country town now has art, and they're enormous. They're like 30 meters tall, and they've got art relevant to the area on them. They really are beautiful, and I really should get around and do a bit of photography there. Yeah, silo art. I just love silo art. I know there's one up in Rochester, which I've been past going up to Echuca, and it's just beautiful. And there are a whole bunch of them in places like Euroa and Benalla and a lot of the towns up that way where they grow and harvest wheat up in the Wimmera area. Really got to do that. It'd be a great adventure. And they do look beautiful. In fact, there is one nearby on a water tower in Werribee. There's some silo art as well. I think I've done it on the channel before, but I really should revisit it. Deb says, yep, they're insane. She's talking about the new people. I curled up under a blanket with kids from the cat chatting to you, Mob. Yeah, I think that's a better option. You're less likely to get hypothermia watching my live stream than you are dipping into the ocean in Nipaluna. D-Lee says, sounds like those rushes that go from mass swim in the winter to ice every year. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It also happened down at Australia's Antarctic base. They had a nude swim. No, they didn't have a nude swim. They had a group swim yesterday as a solstice tip. And so all of the people in this Antarctic base race out into the water and then come back and have a party because, like the people in Nipaluna, they're bloody insane. For me, it doesn't work because of a few incidents in my younger years, I can get very triggered by being very cold. I was homeless for a while and in the middle of winter here in Melbourne for a couple of weeks, and that was pretty hard. And my brain goes back to it if I get too cold, and I get very miserable. Life leaves scars on us, but I can manage it. But it does leave scars on us. So, what else did I watch that was surprisingly satisfying? Let's get back to movies. Deb says, in truth, if I was younger and healthier, I'd probably go and just for the experience for the nude swim. Yeah, well, you'd need to take a lot of brandy. Yeah, it's something that I wouldn't do. I'd do it in the summertime. I mean, I've been to nude beaches when I was younger a lot. Never phased me. And there's always lovely things to look at. But wintertime, not so much. Yeah, okay, next thing I watched that was surprisingly satisfying. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Sam Rockwell's great in that. Zazie Beetz is in it as well. Michael Pena. Gonzo crazy science fiction concept, which has some sub-stories that play a lot like Black Mirror episodes. Really good fun, totally off the wall crazy, surrealistic, very, very satisfying. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Good title too. It's like Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's in that subgenre of goofy, crazy, but heartfelt science fiction movies. That one I liked. Really got to get a copy of that at some stage. What else did I see? Deb says Sam Rockwell is good in most things too. Yeah, absolutely, he is. One of those underrated actors who does a lot of weird projects, but hasn't got the traction of actors who played safer. I mean, he could have been an enormous star. I don't doubt it. I just saw him in something I've been watching, and he nailed the brief in that as well. Sam Rockwell, always got time for him. And Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. There's a lot of complex kind of info dump his character has to put across to not only the people he sees in this diner where he's a time traveler has come back to save the world, but also to the audience. And feeding all that shit to everybody is a bit of a juggling act. And Sam Rockwell does it very, very well. And again, it's a satisfying movie. It really is a lot of fun. Second coffee of the day. I get myself another one. This afternoon, I'm dropping Sal off for an appointment. And I'm going to go to Leroy's in Newport and get a nice coffee and a cake. We savour the small pleasures around here. D. Lee says Sam Rockwell takes risks with his choices in the films Moon and Jojo Rabbit, for example. Yeah, he does. And I like that in an actor. I mean, I realise that it is a genuine risk to take certain roles because it can affect your career, your finances, and it's very rocky ground to stand on being an actor in movies because you can either find a safe rock that isn't very challenging or you can dance across the landscape and take the risk of being in a total piece of shit by accident or making a movie and the director turns out to be a kiddie fiddler, which is not something that has happened. And so it is quite a difficult balancing act to sustain a career in movies for a long time. But Sam Rockwell does it while making those choices. And you've got to have respect for that, really. Just being a safe person who takes safe roles and also leverages your power to make sure that the roles you take are safe is less respected. DB Akira says, rewatched Hang 'em High last night. Right now, first time since I was a kid in the 70s. I guess you don't realize how cheesy a movie is when you're a little kid. Nice cinematography, though. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of respect for Clint Eastwood as a movie star. I think he never showed us anything of himself, really. And even when he did a movie that could be considered kind of a personal movie, like Play Misty for Me, it's like, look at poor me. I screwed a crazy lady and she went crazy. It's yeah, as a persona in movies, you always played somebody who was either a bully like Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry's not an admirable character at all, and he plays to the audience that's the worst of the male gender with that character in the same way that Charles Bronson does in Death Wish. They're not franchises that are really sustain themselves by being something we can cheer on in the modern era. Hi, Bonk, but how you doing? What's the weather like where you are? We're doing weather reports when people come in. Okay, what's next on my list? DB Cooper says, I agree about Eastwood. Yeah, I'm really, because I'm now, in the last few years, a professional movie reviewer, I'm really kind of looking deeply into the little teen gods of cinema in a way. And some of them holding up okay. Others, not so much. And that obligation, yeah, I'm willing to have an unpopular opinion. And I had a couple of friends of mine who are movie reviewers said to me, you're not scared to have an unpopular opinion, are you? Okay. What I try to do is have an opinion that is true to myself and true to the people who are my audience. And in this essence, people who either watch my channel and become, well, hang on, either watch my channel alone or the people who watch my channel and become channel members or Patreon supporters. They're, in a sense, my bosses. Not that anybody tells me what to do. Some try, but, but I've got to stay true to them. And I've got to stay true to myself as well, which is one of the problems I always had when I was working for other people for 45 years before I retired. Staying true to yourself and staying true to what you're asked to do in a job is very difficult at times. It doesn't matter. It can be a totally legit job, but there's shit work you've got to do when you're in a job for somebody else. But for me, when I'm working for myself and for an audience that self-selects, I kind of like the fact that there's no dichotomy there for me. It's all very clear. I'll review the movies I want to review. I'll be given a bunch of movies at times by people to review, and my audience asks me to review things. Excuse me, I got to blow my nose. All of that is an incredibly satisfying experience. Bugbot says, pleasant today, a bit cloudy with some soft rain. Perfect. Cool. Bugbot says, I want to see Masters of the Universe before it leaves the big screens. It looks like fun. I'm hearing very good buzz about the Masters of the Universe movie. Nobody is saying it's Citizen Kane, but they're saying that it's enjoyable and fun. And even though it hasn't really broke the bank at Monte Carlo, it's still there's still talk of a possibility of a sequel. That's one of the things. I'm making a list at the moment, and I'll kind of foreshadow the list of things about movies. And here's one of them. It doesn't really matter to an audience member whether a movie is crazily successful financially. If you enjoy a movie, you enjoy a movie. You're probably going to find it on physical media if you collect physical media later on. You're going to watch it again on streaming if you really enjoyed it. All of that. But it doesn't really matter whether it makes $1 billion or $100 million or $50 million. But movie studios want you to care about that because it helps them promote their brand, and it also helps the bonuses for the executives. But in a real sense, it doesn't matter to me that movies I love, like 2 Weeks in Another Town, or The Bad and the Beautiful, or the 1948 version of Roadhouse, I couldn't give a stuff whether they made money or not. They're movies I love, they're movies I treasure, they're movies I enjoy rewatching. None of that really matters. So I'm kind of ignoring box office, except to occasionally mention it. But I'm not putting my poker chips on that number for the movies. It really doesn't matter to me whether they make a lot of money or not. It matters to me that they give value, and that they'll make people either a bit happier, a bit more thoughtful, a bit wiser, a bit sadder, all of the things that movies do, a bit scared in the case of horror movies. That's what matters. The money doesn't. End of rant. Though it could be considered that all of my 2-hour live streams are rants. Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, let me have a look at this. So I'm still trying to work out how to do a bloody poll on this thing, because I should have thought of this beforehand. Okay. So what have people been watching? Give me a little bit of an idea about what you've been watching while I try to figure this out. Bogbot says, I think that Clint Eastwood can be seen as one of the creatures from the Black Lagoon sequels. Yeah, he is. He plays as like a lab assistant. He's also the guy that flies the jet that dumps napalm on Tarantula. Let's see if this works. Hang on. No. Start a poll. Here we go. Just be a second. I'm going to get this poll read. So I'm going to read your chats. So just. Okay, start the poll. Okay, there we go. We've got a poll started on the channel, and people can vote on it because it's going to be going both ways. When I haven't got a Monday video ready, I've been doing a live stream. But we're going to let that poll run for a while, and I want to hear what the people who actually watch the live stream think I should do about that. Jay says I've been binging Comfort Food, Fringe, and Babylon 5. Good choices. Both of them are solid in their own genre, so great. Really approve of that choice. Not that you need my approval or not. Let's see. Backrooms was a solid 8 out of 10, says Peter. Liked it a lot. Read box office. Disney's obsessed with its own stats. You're right. And seems to expect us to care too. I don't. No, it's reasonable. Let's see. ME says I watched Sentimental Value and thought it was great. I'm not sure I remember which one that is, but we'll see. Force, I watched Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde on my recommendation. Liked it a lot. What's another Hammer film you think I'd enjoy seeing? Let's see. There is one I watched for the first time called Stolen Face. It's from 1952. It's a crime movie with Paul Unread and Veronica Lake in it. Is it Veronica Lake? Might not be. Let me just have a look. Elizabeth Scott. It's got Elizabeth Scott in it. You might well like that one. That might work for you. DB Cooper wants me to watch Love Moustache. DVD sent me a long time ago. I've still got it. Might even qualify for Science Fiction Saturday. Cool. I really should drag that one out because I do have it up at back. D. Lee says, I went into the Godzilla zone and saw my Criterion Blu-ray of Godzilla versus the Astro Monsters, the Japanese version, which is a bit more to it than the US cut. That's the way it is with Godzilla movies. Always go for the Japanese version. For Sale says fortnightly for the live streams. Deb says, not watching much actually, but really busy. I've been reading the director by Daniel Kelman, fictionalized the life of G.W. Pabst. Very good, cool. Yep. ME says it's family drama with Stellan Skarsgård and Renata Renzi. Yeah, I remember it now. It's got that generic name to it, which always makes it more difficult. Yeah, Skarsgård did pretty okay. I phrased that bloody poll wrong. Let me just end that poll and we'll start a new one because I totally screwed it up. What I should do is make them weekly or fortnightly because that's not very clear. So I've totally screwed that up. That's my fault. That's on me. So we'll get there. Peter says, rewatched Red Dwarf recently, saw Corman's Mask of the Red Death, loved it, got a Shakespearean vibe. It does. Absolutely. Let's see. Okay, so I've rebooted the chat there. Just got to do a couple of other things. Okay, start a poll. Okay, I've started the poll again to make it clearer what the results are. I'm not a statistician. I'm just some doofus talking about movies. But the poll is there now, and people can vote on it, whether you want weekly or fortnightly live streams. I'll go either way. I'm versatile in that way. But another movie. Let's find another movie. If you want a little budget horror movie, which is otherwise known as a small budget horror movie, I did see a 2025 supernatural horror film. Now you got to remember, this is low budget. It doesn't have all the money in the world to make the movie, but it's a movie called Whistle, which is about a bunch of teenagers who find an Aztec death whistle. And the Aztec death whistle, if they blow it, anybody that hears it gets chased by their own death, in the sense that the death will find them and they will look like, basically the death will find them. If they were fated to die at the age of 80 in a fire, that death that comes at them will be an 80-year-old on fire. Or if they were hit by a car and smashed to pieces at the age of 50, that 50-year-old smashed to pieces will come and they will become that and they will die. Interesting concept. It's done fairly well. The acting's fine. It's got Nick Frost, among other people, in it. But Whistle is a small budget horror film. It's got a kind of original idea to it. And I did enjoy that. It was one of my surprisingly satisfying watches. Patrick says, just saw Pressure in the cinema. Forsale says, Stolen Faces on YouTube, and I'll be watching it soon. Cool. Hi, Franny. How's it going? What's the weather like up there? And don't say hot, because it's even when it gets to 35 degrees, that's not hot. 42 degrees is hot. But let's see what I got there. Got to stop freaking around with the stats here. Hang on. It's 10:30 at night, and your flat is 27 degrees. Are you able to open some windows? Because that would be my recommendation. Yeah, 27 degrees indoors is a little off. We have trouble with this in summertime too. We've got evaporative air conditioning, which is fortunate. But even then, you've got to keep some windows open. But if there's a hot wind blowing, there's a battle between the evaporative air conditioning and the environment. And evaporative air conditioning only knocks down the temperature by at the most 10 degrees centigrade. So if it's 42 degrees, it only gets down to about 32 or so. It's not ideal. But my advice, Friday, keep your liquids up. Lots and lots of liquids. Mostly water. That was the lesson somebody told me when we went to Darwin, up in the Northern Territory. It's during the wet season, so it's very humid and very hot. They said drink twice as much water and walk about 20% slower, and you adapt in a day or so. What else did I watch that was surprisingly satisfying? Project Hail Mary. I mean, it hasn't stayed with me the way a lot of good movies do, but it's fun. It's got a cute alien. It's got Baby Goose in it, whose facial features are a bit odd and whose hairline has changed. Not in the tide going out way that mine has. But yeah, it's satisfying without being life-changing. Boypot says, my last trip to the Vinegar Syndrome store, I nabbed a copy of Turkey Shoot. Haven't committed to watching it yet, not heard it. It's a twist on Most Dangerous Game. It kind of is, but kind of isn't. It's cartoonish. Brian Trenchard Smith directed it. Who's in it? Steve Railsback's in it. Olivia Hussey. Roger Ward, Carmen Duncan. It's fun. It's a hoot. Carol says, sadly, UK houses are set up to keep us warm, so hot as summers here are not comfortable. Also, heat here is wet heat, so you sweat like hell. Yeah, that's the problem. Humid heat is a little harder to handle. The only thing I could suggest is keep airflow going, even if you're not going to be cooled down by fans. The airflow is going to let your body do its own evaporative cooling to a certain extent. Deb says, I've been rewatching the old science fiction or horror movie you didn't see. Bastille Day on the weekend. It's on SBS. It's flawed, but okay. Bastille Day's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Nice little action flick. Friday says, I drink a lot of water with a dash of mojito mix. It's like mojito squash. Very nice. Yeah, that sounds like it could work too. Hi, Dog's Dad. How you doing? Going to finish my espresso. That's good. I can already feel it firing up the neurons. The other thing I watched that was fun, Sisu Road to what is it? I'm trying to read my writing. Road to Revolution or something. Let's see. Sisu 2. I'm going to look that up because Sisu Road to Revenge. That's what it is. Same guy in it, Jorma Tomila. I like a Sisu movie. Sisu movies are great because the villains are very clear cut. They're either Nazis or mad Russian communists. And the inventiveness and creativity plus the locations just make them wonderful. They're cartoonish, but they're satisfyingly cartoonish. The Sisu movies. I just love them for that. And coming from a Finnish point of view, you learn a little bit about another culture while you're watching them slice the throats of Nazis. Friday says, my favourite, most dangerous game film was Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity. Just the silliness and the arguing robots. You can't go past the 1980s science fiction direct-to-video movie. There's something about them. Carol says, unfortunately, I have a load of idiots around us making noise and smoking pots, so opening windows isn't always possible if you want to sleep. Yeah, that doesn't sound good, Carol. Have you considered getting a super soaker and just, spraying them when they get near your window? Forsyth says, movie theatres here are overly air conditioned. I have to bundle up or suffer. Yeah, I did notice that when I was in America in '98. They really chilled down the cinemas, and you got to put your hoodie on. Dog's Dad says, just finished watching Apex on Netflix, filmed around Australia. What's my opinion? Let me just refresh myself on Apex. I think I know which one we're talking about. I haven't seen it. Charlize Theron, Taron Egerton. I know it's on my streaming service. I think it's on Netflix, but I haven't watched it yet. But it's nice to see a bit of that Netflix money flowing to technicians here in Australia. Yeah, Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity is American. It's not Italian. D. Lee says Francis is one of the archetypal 80s straight-to-video science fiction movies. I've got it on Blu-ray. Plus, I've got it in the box set that Umbrella put out of all the Charles Band movies. So I can go either way with that. I bought the 4K a couple of years ago when I had a little money. But it's in the box set as well. So fantastic. Can't go wrong with Tim Thomerson in a 1980 science fiction movie. It's just one of those odd sweet spots. Again, surprisingly satisfying. But Francis, when it first came out here in Australia, it was called Future Cop. I'm not sure why, but they did. And it did get some television commercial advertising as well. Dodge Morgan says, Disclosure Day has Spielberg lost it. I did a video about that. I really feel that Disclosure Day is Spielberg's vanity project. He did it because he gets a semi about aliens and UFOs, and it's made him a lot of money in the past, and he thought he could get away with it again without actually saying anything new or interesting. Just too long did not read. He failed. It's the really weird thing. When it first came out, there were a lot of reviews saying it was the next coming of Jesus Christ. And then as people actually saw the movie and weren't just sent to junkets to review it, more complex and nuanced reviews of Disclosure Day started coming up. People who didn't have any skin in keeping the movie studio sweet started reviewing it, and the reviews got a bit more nuanced. I think Mark Kermode did a very good review of the film, but most of the people who get to go to press junkets really soft-sold it because they're Spielberg fans. And I think that's the threat with movies like this. There are certain directors that a lot of people feel can do no wrong, and that does a disservice to the people who are reading their reviews or watching their reviews. Boykbot says, I just ordered The Last Horror Show with Joe Spinell and Carolyn Munro. I can't believe I've gotten this far in life without seeing it. Yeah, it is kind of dark, and Spinell's one of those weird actors who their reputation increased after they died. You really go, yeah, Joe Spinell's in this movie. It's crazy. I'm going to watch it. He's got that kind of vibe about him. Dog's Dad says, I just Googled how much is Spielberg net worth. 6.1 billion. I guess he can afford to put out any kind of quality he wants. Yeah, of course he can. He can afford to make a Marvel Cinematic Universe worth of movies. The question arises, should he? I think with people like Spielberg, if they continue to make movies like this, which are vanity projects and they're indulgences, what they're going to lose in that, apart from losing money, and it wasn't his money that was in the game with Disclosure Day. What he's going to lose is reputation. People are going to go, yes, Spielberg did some good movies. He did Jaws. He did Close Encounters and E.T. I don't care for them. Other people did. He did Schindler's List. He did a bunch of other films. But then he fell off a fucking cliff when he turned 80. He's 79. So, like in his 70s, people will say he fell off a cliff. And that's going to be the headline, ultimately. He stayed in the game too long, or he didn't find the right collaborators later in his career. He needed people who were going to push against him. And he wasn't going to get that because he's Spielberg. And that, I think, is the poison chalice of a very successful movie career. When you don't hear no often enough, you got a tendency to think you're infallible. And every little brain fart is covered in glitter and magic. And that's not the case with movie makers. I'm more excited by seeing things like the directors of Backrooms and Obsession. I want to see what these young people are doing new. I don't want to get the same tropes that Spielberg gives us. Space tadpole aliens who are benign and lovely. We saw that in the 80s. We don't need to see that in 2026. Peter says, Disclosure is getting absolutely shit-canned by YouTube reviewers. Your review is measured and balanced by comparison. I mean, it's easy to shit-can a movie. But ultimately, for me, it's not as much fun. There are any number of movies I could just shit-can. And it'd be fun while I was like filming it. But then I'd have to edit and go, you're a fucking dickhead. If I don't like a movie, I'll talk about one of my worst movies, Melania. I talked about that movie from an emotional point of view, but I also analysed it as well. It would have been easy to just shit-can it and shit-can the whole Trump machine. But I went with the emotional beats that hit me, and I analysed why it existed at all. That's a lot more satisfying. It's harder to do. You get more skin in the game by doing that than by shit-canning a movie. But ultimately, I like to do slightly more complex review than just shit-canning things. Shit-canning is easy. Everybody can throw a brick. Not everybody can chip out and show you what's wrong with the structure. Deb says, I feel like that about Ridley Scott too. Yeah, I'm never really taken to Ridley Scott as a movie maker. I've seen a number of his movies, and there are some I like more than others. But the kind of way people idolize Ridley Scott, I never really understood. Friday says, Spielberg, too much budget too. So many magic movie moments exist because directors and crew had to figure out how to do what they wanted on a limited budget. Yeah, and Spielberg's just saying the same shit again. He's not saying anything new. He's not, he's locked into a certain headspace about a certain subject, and he's running with that. I'm not sure that's a good thing. And I don't know how many more movies he's got in him. He's 79, so the clock's ticking as it is for all of us. But I don't think we're, at this stage, from what I understand, going to get a wonderful Spielberg movie again. We're not going to get something that blows your socks off or even makes them wriggle. We're going to probably see him do 2, 3, 5 more movies. But I can't see them being incredible, wonderful Spielbergian movies. Dog's Dad says, what new generation of filmmakers are worth taking notice of? To do that, you've got to look at horror. You've got to look at the people who are making small budget horror movies. I mean, the Sperrig brothers have been doing good stuff for years. Okay, let's see. Kane Parsons, who did Backrooms, is it worth watching? The guy that did Recession, I keep getting their names lost. Curry Baker, who does Obsession. The Philippou brothers, who did a bunch of horror movies. It's early in the morning. Who did Bring It Back, Danny and Michael Philippou. The interesting thing is that all the really groovy filmmakers at the moment are coming out of starting their careers on YouTube. And that is freaking the fuck out of the traditional industry. And I like that. I like seeing what new young people are saying. Yeah, it's fun having nostalgic conversations with people your own age or people within like 20 years of your own age. But sometimes I learn a lot more talking to my 16-year-old nephew than I learn from talking to people my age. Just the different viewpoints and the way their culture is a descendant of the culture I grew up in, but is very much different. I love that. And I think that's happening with cinema as well, where younger people's culture isn't ours. The things that concern and worry and delight and educate them are different than the things that we had as experiences. Look for young filmmakers that are doing okay. There's another one I wanted to find too. Give me a moment. Sorry, I keep Googling things, but I really want to get this right because it's an important question that I want to answer. Craig Gillespie, who is doing the Superman Girl, which I'm looking forward to. I mean, he did Lars and the Real Girl. He did the remake of Fright Night. He did Cruella. And he's doing Supergirl. I think he's an interesting director. He's also from Sydney, so he's like a local boy to me. He's a Sydney sider like me. But look for people who make movies, but you don't know their name. Would be the best advice. If you enjoy a movie, but you go, I don't know that director, you can look them up and then follow their careers. And I think that's a way to go as well. And one of the fortunate things I have is Imprint and Umbrella will send me movies, and I'll watch movies and go, shit, that's a good movie. Who's the director? And I'll find new directors. When I'll use an analogy that I think may be helpful. When I was very young and I could afford to go to a restaurant, which wasn't always, I would go to the restaurant and I'd always order the weirdest thing on the menu, the stuff that wasn't familiar to me. Yeah, just odd things like a seafood marinara pizza, which I'd never had, but I really like. And when you're going through your streaming services or you're looking for things on a shelf, find the weirdest thing on the menu. Find the weird movie that is broadly what you might like, but none of it's familiar to you. You just don't know. Yes, you're going to be wrong sometimes, but you're also going to find some really good stuff there. So the best thing I can say about who to look for in new creative people is look for the weirdest thing on the menu. That's going to be the stuff that ultimately will nourish you. I hope that helps. Dodge Morgan says Blade Runner Scott best movie. The extra source scenes and special edition could have made 3 separate Blade Runner movies, all slightly different. Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too. You get somebody doing a movie and then the studio dips its fingers in and finger paints all over it. Forsale says, what's your opinion on The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo with Rooney Mara, which was a remake of the Swedish film? I didn't like it as much as I liked the original Millennium Trilogy. I've actually got the originals and the remake on physical media. The original Girl and the Dragon Tattoo trilogy that were made in Sweden punches hard, and it punches hard against misogyny. The original title of the original novel was totally salient to the point I'm making. The original title of the novel was The Men Who Hate Women. And that's exactly what The Girl in the Dragon Tattoo is about. It's about Elizabeth Salander going against men who hate women. So I'd go back to the original trilogy. I think it's much, much better. Even though Fincher did the remake, go back to the original and you will find it is gritty and tough and hard. And for that reason, more satisfying. Dealey says, everything you like was new to you once, so look at more things and find more things you like. Absolutely. You've got to go for the weird shit on the menu. Hi, Dennis. You're watching The Superlative for All Mankind companion series Star City. Slow burn during the first 2 episodes, shifts gears, builds its intrigues as it tells old history. I haven't watched it yet. I probably will at some stage, but I haven't watched it yet. But what I have watched, the Apple series Sugar with Colin Farrell, has got a second season. I'm watching the first episode of that now. I actually watched it. Really good. And there's some good movie recommendations rolled into that series. I'm not going to do spoilers about what the series is about, but you should check out Sugar with Colin Farrell. Totally worth it. Deb says there's a lot of really interesting female directors that are worth Kelly Reichardt, Coralie Fargett, Celine Sciamma, Jane Campion, of course, and many others. Yeah, absolutely. Coralie Fargett, I really love. Revenge is great. And, of course, so is The Substance. I want to see what she does next. Jay says, I really find the remakes are as good. Let the right one in, Villa of the Sky, etc. Absolutely. If you enjoyed a remake, and yeah, there's nothing to say you won't. It's not a stain upon your character if you enjoy a remake. But if you enjoy the remake, go back to the original. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, that's going to be even better. Yes, it may have subtitles being a foreign language. Doesn't matter. Going back to the OG sources will tell you more about the movie you enjoyed than not doing it. Friday says, Scott's obsession with multiple director's cut versions of Blade Runner really put me off watching the movie ever again. No shade on the rest of you are still enjoying it. Yeah, I think Spielberg and Scott, and to an extent George Lucas, didn't. There's that saying that art is never finished; it's abandoned. And those directors just went, "No, I'm going to go back and I'm going to change shit in my old movies because it's easier to do than doing something new and original and taking the chance on something new." So they went back and they finger painted over their old stuff. And in, I think, all cases, they diminished it by doing that. Dogstad says, have Jill and Luna made an appearance? Nope, they're hiding. They've gone outside. The sun's risen now. It's 7:56, so the sun's well up. And they're busy doing cat stuff this morning. Though in the evenings, while it is still cold, Luna does come up for cuddles while I'm trying to edit videos or watch something. And she's got this thing. I've got a big desktop computer, which is what I run the whole operation out of. It's the one I do the editing on. And she'll jump on top of it and wait, and then I've got to pick her up and cuddle her. And she does that, but she never does it when I've got a camera on. Ralph says regarding the girl with the dragon tattoo, as hard as reading the horrible things done to Elizabeth in the novels, it's so rewarding when she personally serves up to come up. It's absolutely. It's righteously done. It's not just wish fulfillment the way, say, Death Wish in the Death Wish movies are. It's righteous. She's punching upwards as high as you can punch. Dodge says, I love the majority of Stanley Kubrick's work, but his final film, Eyes Wide Shut's awful. Would have loved to have seen his aborted Napoleon movie Ridley Scott took over. Yeah, I never loved Eyes Wide Shut. And the weird thing is, even though they were married for a decade, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman have zero charisma on the screen. There's no chemistry between them. It really doesn't, punch. If you want to see real chemistry between actors who are in a relationship in movies, you got to go back to, say, To Have and Have Not with Bogart and Bacall. Those two were hot with each other in the movie, and you could tell, even with all the guardrails on a 1940s movie, you could tell they were having fun working together. They loved one another. They were hot for one another. That kind of sizzle doesn't always happen in movies. It doesn't happen very often in movies. And Eyes Wide Shut is the opposite of that. It's a total soft off of a movie. On original sources, Jay says, I concur. After all, it was the Magnificent Seven which led me to the Seven Samurai. Absolutely. Not to take anything away from Magnificent Seven, but Seven Samurai is perfect. That's why I've got it on 4K. It's a perfect movie. D. Lee says, I have a liking for Ken Burns documentaries. I'm currently rewatching The West, which he produced. Tells you so much about the history of the American West with a focus on Native Americans. Good. I do have, in my best of the year, I do have a documentary in that, which is called 1,000 Women in Horror, which is based on Alexandra Helen Nicholas's book. And it does lots of interviews with women who worked in horror movies. And if you want a documentary to watch, that one is worth doing. That one's a banger. It so informs how women have been crucial. They've, in some ways, been the backbone of horror movies and horror as a genre. As far back as Mary Shelley, it's done incredibly well. The people that are interviewed are literate and on point. If you're a movie fan, 1,000 Women in Horror, you've got to see that documentary. Jay says, I have enjoyed your live stream, but my dog wants me to take her outside and throw the ball. Bye, everyone. Bye, Jay. Give your dog a hug for us. You got to do what you got to do. Peter says, Leonardo da Vinci said art is never finished and consequently never finished in painting. Yeah, I mean, even live stream, there's a point in editing videos that I do where I can tweak it and like take out a half a second here, or add a graphic there, or put in a joke here if I had the time. I could do that endlessly and never get a video out in the search for a perfect video. Sometimes you just got to go, that's it. I've got other things to do. I'm happy with that one. I'm not totally in love with that one, but I'm happy with it. And then you release it to the world. Deb says, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, pretty awful movie, but the chemistry is palpable. Absolutely. And you get that even just with individual actresses and sometimes actors, like Ava Gardner, young Ava Gardner in One Touch of Venus. There's nothing hotter on the screen. You can tell she was a woman who really enjoyed physical acts. And it came across on the screen, apart from the fact she was stunningly beautiful. That sexual magic came across on the screen. There are a number of actresses like that. But you don't see it with people like Sydney Sweeney, who's got all the curves and the shapes, but doesn't have the personality to be what Ava Gardner was. Yeah, perfection never finishes, Franny. Good enough delivers. Dogstat says, how much time do I devote to my YouTube channel? It varies. Recording takes approximately an hour. We'll call it an hour, even if it's like a 30-minute video or a 16-minute video or a 25-minute video or a 40-minute video. Averages out about an hour. There's that. Then I've got to upload it to the computer, which takes longer than you think because you've got to load it from a tiny micro SD card onto the hard drive. And then the process is I strip out the audio and I enhance it. I've got a way of enhancing that with an online thing. I put the video and the audio back together. I then save a copy of that as my raw editing video. And then I start cutting bits away and I start adding things like the start of Science Fiction Saturday. I gather together all the assets, the little bits of video from the movies or the little stills from the movies. And I put that together. That process could take about 4 hours. And then I've got to upload. That takes 2 to 3 hours. Then I've got to put in tags. I've got to find a thumbnail. I've got to find a title. And then once I've got all of that, I've got a way. There's a thing YouTube does that lets you pick a number of titles for a video. And it puts out that video with all those different titles on it, depending on who is watching it. And it works out which one's the most popular title. And after a day, you can select that title for the video from then on. So it's like an A-B comparison. You can do up to 3. It takes a lot longer than you think. The travel vlogs, they're actually simpler. Recording, the recording can take hours and hours depending on where I'm going. But editing the travel vlogs is a lot simpler for some reason because it's mostly visual. Yes, it does have me talking, but the main emphasis of that is the visual. And those ones take maybe 3 hours to edit. And then I can upload them and do all the other bits and pieces for them. But the travel vlogs are a lot simpler process than the movie vlogs. Friday says, the Thin Man movies with the 2 lead stars are so good together. Yeah, they are. They play off each other wonderfully. William Powell and Myrna Loy. Myrna Loy was in movies for like a decade and a half before she started doing the Thin Man movies. And she started out as kind of an exotic femme fatale and then became who she was in the Thin Man movies, and just terrific there. D. Lee says, a recent documentary I'd recommend is a missionary about John Chow, the young American who tried to go to North Central Ireland to preach and was slain. It uses animation to tell part of the story. Wasn't that guy a dickhead? I mean, North Central Ireland, for those who don't know, is in the Andaman Islands south of India, and they've never had contact with the outside world. The only contact they had, they attacked the people who came there and So it's a protectorate from the Indian government. It's a primitive society that's untouched by the modern world. And this John Chow guy was an American god botherer who decided he was going to go to the island and convert them all to Christianity because he was an idiot. So he went to the island and got killed by them because the Sentinelese just want to be left the hell alone. And the Indian government is doing that because anybody that goes to the island is going to get a spear or an arrow through them. So it's a protectorate. And I've got no time for people like that guy. I think the privilege and the hubris he showed by thinking that he knew better than people who've been living that way for 50,000 years just shows a certain kind of worldview that I find repugnant. Dodge has always had the hots for Faith Domergue and those expressive eyes, but who could compete with Howard Hughes? A number of people did. But yeah, Hughes had a lot of money and a lot of charisma, but had so many problems with OCD and stuff like that. There are always those actors and actresses that we find very attractive. And, some of them have it naturally, some of them work at it. On the other hand, you get people like Glenn Powell, who tries to pretend to be Clint Eastwood, but never actually has a lot of riz of his own. John Chow documentary dealer says his dad blamed the people who taught him. They said they brainwashed him. He said they brainwashed him. Possibly, but I come from a complex place there. I was gaslit from my childhood by my father. And I built up a resistance to it over time. It took a lot of pain and a lot of effort. But I never drank his Kool-Aid. And that's what caused me a lot of trouble. I was a tough little kid in some ways. And you can only be brainwashed culturally if you allow yourself to be. You take the easy path, the line of least resistance. You let the love bombing work. You let people tell you you're special. Let people tell you that you've got the secret of the universe. At some stage you've got to give permission for that to happen. And particularly in religion, I find that repugnant, but also the responsibility to live an honest life and to live a life without that sense of privilege is up to you. Bogbot says, thanks, Terry. I look forward to joining these streams. I don't have to get out much. I don't get out much and don't have many film aficionado friends. You've got us. We're always happy to have a chat on the live streams. And we do. We really have fun with it. Let's see. Here, I'm going to give you a choice. Do you want another worst movie, another best movie, or another surprisingly satisfying movie recommendation? Because I've got all three. I actually did homework this time around. So what do people want? And when the chat goes slow, I know we've got ads. Franny wants surprisingly satisfying. Let's get 2 more votes. I'm not disregarding what you say, Franny. I just want to get a little. So we want good, bad, or surprisingly satisfying. Gives me a chance not to talk because my throat goes after a while. Boinkbot says, what a bummer that Spielberg didn't deliver the goods of Disclosure Day. I may never even watch it. I have stacks of unwatched movies that offer better alternative. It's a choice. How's the live streaming frequency poll going? It's running about 59% fortnightly at the moment, Dog's Day. For sale was surprisingly satisfying. Dealey says, I did give some street religion salesman a bit of an earful the other day. When I say not interested in Z, don't try to follow up. Cool. Point, but what's satisfying as well. Let's see. What do we want in the surprisingly satisfying? And I will give you a worst later, Peter. And Deb says, how about all of them? I've got an enormous list. Surprisingly satisfying that I haven't really talked about. Also, Jason Statham movie, Shelter, which was surprisingly satisfying. Yes, it's a Statham movie, so you know it's going to be him punching people in the head. But there's one called Shelter that came out. It's on streaming. I was in the mood for a bit of Statham. And Shelter's about a guy who lives on an island in the Hebrides remotely. He's hiding out from MI6, which is being run by Bill Nye. And he gets food delivered every week by a friend who used to be in the Royal Marines with him. And the friend brings his little trawler in close to the beach on this island. And his daughter rows the supplies to the island and leaves them on the beach. The daughter's curious about this mysterious man who lives on the island. And one day, the trawler capsizes and she's trapped there. And she gets caught in a net and gets damaged in the ocean, and Statham's got to go out and rescue her. But then he's got to go into town to get some medical supplies to help this young girl. And he gets twigged by a camera. And that goes to MI6. And they send a kill squad out to knock him off because he's been mislabeled as a terrorist on their database for some reason. He takes down the kill squad of SAS, of MI6 people, and they go on the run. Very satisfying. A lot of fun. A lot of biff. A lot of good action sequences. With the Statham movie, you know what you're getting with the Statham movie. It was incredibly satisfying. Hey, middle-aged geek girl's here. What's up, she says. Sal's doing fine. Bonkbot's in Denver, Colorado. It's beautiful here today. Cool. Yeah, but Sal's decided to get on a live chat instead of killing zombies, which is what she normally does. She plays zombie kill games. With her, it's either zombies or Nazis. But yeah, Shelter was fun. A bad one? So many choices. One of the worst ones I saw besides Melania was on YouTube. It was a movie that Bob Hope did in 1972 called Cancel My Reservation, where he's married to Eva Marie Saint, and they go to Arizona to a place near an Indian reservation, get involved with hijinks. It's incredibly bad. All the jokes don't land. All of the character beats don't land. Bob Hope, who never wrote a joke in his life, is just atrocious in it. Even Marie Saint is trying to do well with it. It's got a bunch of other character actors and opinions in it. I watched it, but I thought, and it was the last feature film that Bob Hope made. It was so out of tune with 1972's zeitgeist that it stuck out like a sore thumb. It was incredibly bad. The jokes were horrible. Some of them were racist, but it made me realize that at a certain level, mid-tier comedy movies just didn't land in the 1970s. Sal says, hi, everyone. One of the girls is present under my desk. Be right back. Looks like one of the cats threw up under Sal's desk. I'm going to say Jill because it was probably Jill. Luna doesn't go under her desk that much. So she's on sanitary drill. So everyone give her a lot of love for that because, yeah, fur balls and things like that. But best movies, I'll go with best. Something not too horrible. Friday says, I don't think that Bob Hope evolved culturally since the 50s. I'd say the 40s, really. Best fun film, Lesbian Space Princess, an Australian animated film, which has Shabana Aziz playing the title character. Really cool fun about a lesbian space princess who lives on the planet of Clitopolis, which is very hard to find. And she goes on an adventure after her hot, nasty girlfriend dumps her. And she it's a voyage of self-discovery, but it's a lot of fun. And it's got Richard Roxburgh playing her spaceship. Just a lot of fun, a lot of heart. I got a copy of it from Umbrella Entertainment, and it's just a delight. The animation's not photorealistic; it's not even like Studio Ghibli, but it works, and it very much talks to modern stuff, but from a queer point of view, and I love it. It's just such fun. Bonkbot says, did anyone see The Burrows on Netflix? I'm hearing things about it, but I haven't seen it. Very much enjoyed it, and the cast is wonderful. Gina Davis, what a treat to see her again. Alfred Molina and other fab actors. I will watch it at some stage, but I haven't. I know it didn't get a second season. Worst movie for me, Jerry Lewis on Visit to a Small Planet, truly awful. It says Dodge. I'll agree. 4 stars says Bob Hope comic books with more truck artwork were very cool. Yeah. Peter says, I never found Bob Hope funny. Best thing he ever did was My Favorite Brunette. I'd say the road films because him and Bing Crosby had rapport, and I like the fourth wall breaking. The road films borrow a lot from Hills of Poppin'. Netflix just cancelled The Burrows in under a month's time, says Dog's Dad. Yeah, absolutely. That's a bit of a shame. I hear it was by the Duffer Brothers who did Stranger Things. It was their next project. It's amazing what I know about stuff. Bad movies. Mercy, the one with the least of the Chris's, Chris Pratt, where he gets accused of his wife's murder in a near future where AI determines guilt or innocence. And Rebecca Ferguson's playing the AI, and he's strapped to a chair that's going to electrocute him in an hour. And he's got an hour to use data to find out what really happened with his wife. It was directed by Timur Bekmambetov, who did Night Watch and Day Watch back in the day. It's bad. Chris Pratt, not good. Rebecca Ferguson, who's always good, not given anything to work with. Lots of fancy visuals, but nothing. We don't care whether Chris Pratt's character gets electrocuted or not. It's a Netflix movie. And it's one of those Netflix movies that doesn't give you a lot. For Sale says, but are we all waiting for the day the clown cried for the worst one? I'm not waiting for it at all. Day the Clown Cried was actually made, and does it print exist? It does. Was The Burrows just a remake of The Burbs? No, it wasn't, Dodge. Day the Clown Cried, for those who don't know, was a movie that Jerry Lewis made in the early 70s about a clown in a concentration camp who tries to keep all the little kiddies amused in the death camps. Never got released. It was a passion project for Jerry Lewis, but it's become legendary as a potential worst movie ever made, which has never got a release. I mean, there are movies that were made but never released that did resurrect. The Other Side of the Wind, Orson Welles' last movie, got put together and released on Netflix. I'm waiting for a Criterion edition because if it comes out on a Criterion edition, I will buy a copy of it because I think it's a magnificent film. It's incredible. It's Orson Welles resurrected. Dave says Chris Pratt is painful. Yep. Dog's dad says, I think that someone says it's a Netflix movie, pretty much says what comes to the review. Sad. Yeah, Netflix movies have a whole bunch of different tropes to it. One of which is called competence porn. The main character in a Netflix action film is incredibly competent at one thing. He's either an assassin or a sniper or a spy or a computer hacker, but he's the best person in the world at one thing. And that always happens in those movies. There are a whole bunch of different tropes. There's also another quality of them, which is called gourmet hamburger. The movie's hamburger, but you make it with gourmet ingredients, which means that you pay a lot of the money to get big stars to cash a check. So you get big stars in the movies. But none of them are doing the best work. Paul's here. Hi, Paul. Paul says The Two Popes was a Netflix type movie I like, but is it different from the normal type we see? Yeah, the streaming services have started to realize that those big action films they were doing aren't working. So in the last 12 months or so, they're shifting to make different kinds of movies and giving some people that wouldn't ordinarily get a go. So their business model's shifting slightly because those big Netflix movies are costing a lot, and B, audiences are moving on to different kinds of cinema. Boinkbot says, "Holy crap! YouTube with the commercials these days, and no, I will not shell out the dough to evade the deluge. What a nuisance, though." Boinkbot, that pays for me. I get a little bit of the ad revenue, so I'm not going to be stupid enough to complain about the ads. I'm sorry if they're affecting you, but they pay for what I do. D. Lee says, I saw a YouTube documentary recently about how those big budget films ended up dumped on Netflix by the major studios. Yeah. If a major studio doesn't think that a big budget action film like $250 million movie is going to work, they will flog it off to Netflix to try to minimize their losses. And Netflix, because it has different metrics for measuring success or failure, and because they've got a guaranteed revenue stream by subscription, can afford to take that. Middle-aged Geeker says, how are the US peeps going about buying things from other countries? I stopped selling on Etsy to the US because it's impossible to ship. Same for the EU. And Friday says, no way I'm paying to remove adverts from YouTube. I can buy 3 streaming services for the same price. Well, fair enough. Everybody makes their own judgments on that, Friday. And to be honest, whether somebody does get YouTube Premium or not, if they watch my channel, I get a bump of that, or I get a bump of the ads. I mean, yeah, the ads annoy me too when I'm watching Netflix, but I realize they're paying for the creators that I like. And once I realize that, I become much more tolerant of them. Forsyth says, only $15 a month and worth it if you watch stuff every day. Yep, one way or the other, I get a bump. Forsyth. From my understanding, there's a rough cut, but I know it's a complete film from what I gather. Paul says, you're right. Dumping to Netflix is the modern day opening on one screen and closing the movie in cinemas less than a week. Yeah, it is. That isn't to say there aren't good movies on Netflix. There occasionally are. But I'm finding more of them on Amazon Prime, and I'm finding some of them on Disney Plus because they've rolled Hulu into Disney Plus here in Australia. So you do occasionally get some reasonable stuff. But it's a minefield. You know, you can step on a bindi quite easily, particularly on Amazon, because one of the things I do on the channel, of course, is find obscure science fiction movies that people don't know about. And so I'll go and watch something. And 3/4 of the way through a science fiction movie, it'll turn into a Christian movie. And I feel so ripped off by that because I've invested an hour and 20 minutes into this movie trying to see whether it's any good. and the aliens come to Earth to find Jesus. And my reaction to that is Jesus. So it's a bit of a minefield, particularly with genre films. So be careful. If you're not sure, look them up on Google or Startpage, whatever your search engine is. And just be aware that there's going to be those kind of movies out there. Dealey says, he has given you an opportunity to look away from the screen for a bit, which is healthy. Yeah, I can see that point. Paul says, YouTube Premium is worth it for me. I tend to watch news a lot, the analysis and quite a few physical media live streams through the week. Yeah, no, I see you on them, Paul. That's fine. Agree about Prime these days. Yeah, you've got to be so careful. I mean, there are small things that work. Things like Redux I watched. And that's a small science fiction movie that just hits perfectly. It's one of my surprisingly satisfying ones, about a woman whose daughter is killed by a serial killer, and she starts jumping between universes to kill all of the versions of that serial killer and to try to find a universe where her daughter lived. Fantastic movie. Forsyth says, The Flying Saucer from 1950 is filmed in Alaska. Friday says, Christians are always trying to find Jesus. I think they should be more careful where they put him. Yeah, it's I'm not keen on evangelism of any kind, unless it's two things: being evangelical about good coffee and good movies. Good food too, I suppose. But evangelism, I am going to try to pressure you into believing what I believe. Doesn't sit well with me. Deb says, hey, friends, if I have to run away and get into my Monday, stay warm, cool, everyone. Thanks to Terry and Sally. Thanks, Deb. And sorry I didn't wear your beanie this time, but I'm saving it for when I go out today. Take care of yourself and stay warm down there. Dealey says, are we sure the aliens aren't trying to find cheeses? No, because they'd be looking for fromage, the best cheeses in France. I do not do that to you all the time, Sal. Don't know if it's worth retaining Netflix just because it's been with us too many years. The content's just dreadful. Prime is on my devices because we shop Amazon. Yeah, dogs, that's what I do too. I'll watch Amazon Prime for some things, but I also get free shipping. And that's useful to me, particularly if I've got a little bit of spare and I want to find a movie to talk about on the channel. I can get it from there and not pay the bump for postage. And that makes a significant difference, and it more than compensates for the subscription. Friday says, good coffee films and TV shows, board games, and any guitars that aren't a Fender. If you know, you know. Cool. I've got one musical instrument, and I don't know whether I'm getting rid of it or not. I've got bongo drums. Behind this thing are a set of bongo drums I never learned how to use. Might get them out one day for a live stream, because I've actually got a plan to fix the man cave. I've actually drawn up a plan of what I want it to be, and I've talked it over with Sal, and we're going to work on it because I'm going to have to work at sections because there's a lot of stuff here, some of which I'm going to send to an auction house to get rid of, some of which I'm giving away, some of which I'm dumping. Dodge says, Ricky Gervais said it best, no atheist has ever stood on people's doorsteps demanding God doesn't exist. True. The bongos were a gift from me, says middle-aged geek. Oh, looks like I'm not getting rid of the bongos. She gave them to me for a Christmas present 20 years ago. So I should get the bongos out. There you go, Sal. Dog's Dad's asked you, what's your favorite Sharknado movie? She's going to have to think about it now. The first one, says middle-aged geek girl, the OG Sharknado movie. That makes sense. Very often with any movie series, the first one's the best. Although I did like going into space as middle-aged Rico with one of the Sharknado movies. Yeah, you should rewatch them or find some new short movies to watch. Boykbot says, I just watched the Trollenberg Terror the other evening. What a fabulous old science fiction movie. Had a blast. Yeah, it's all over YouTube as well, the Trollenberg Terror. And I think it got a physical media re-release just in the last couple of months, if I remember rightly. It's also called The Crawling Eye. Yep, you're right, Boykbot. But, yeah, it's good. Forrest Tucker's in it. Warren Mitchell's in it. Who else? Janet Munro's in it. Middle-aged Giga says, I don't have all of them. Some of my discs disappeared. Seriously, what do I do with them? I put them on the shelves under S. Dilly says, is Marvel's Jeff the Landshark going to make it in the MCU from the comics? Maybe in an animated thing, but I don't think in a real-life one. Friday says to Middle-aged Giga, going to space for horror series always the sign of jumping the shark. Jumping the shark in a Sharknado movie is a good idea. Sal's says, no, I mean, we don't have all the series we did, but some are missing now. I'm not sure what happened because I haven't got rid of a Sharknado movie. Boybot says, no, I haven't seen the Sharknado movies. There are a lot of them. I think there are about 5, if I remember correctly. But now after I finish the live stream, I'm going to have to go back and find all the Sharknado movies. 6. There are 6 Sharknado movies, says Middle-aged Geek Girl. And have you ever seen a shark movie you didn't like, Sal? Because I know you really imprint on them like a baby bird. Yep. There have been shark movies you didn't like. Other thing too, this week I'm getting a big box from Imprint by Vision. I worked it out. They're sending me 17 things. So I'm going to do a mega wall. I may break it up into 2 videos. But there's some really interesting movies coming out from Imprint by Vision. And they're sending them to me this week. So I'm going to get a box about the size of a steamer trunk full of movies. Paul says, I've only seen the first Sharknado movie and I don't remember it. The Black Demon was boring, says Sal. It's a shark movie. There's the Requiem as well. That one's bad. I don't know whether you've seen that one. Paul says, Imprint deliveries are great to get. They are. Always end up with a lot of bubble wrap that we can use to do other things with. Friday says to Middle-aged Good Girl, have you seen Orca with the killer whale? We've got that on Blu-ray. I know we have. Let me double check with my Black Mirror. I'm sure we've got Orca. We haven't? I'm wrong. Paul says, hopefully you get some Tales of Adventure sets. Yeah, I'm getting the latest one. Plus, I'm getting the JD one, the Juvenile Delinquent one. I've got all the other ones, Paul. And what are they now? 11 of them? 11 or 12 Tales of Adventure series. Middle-aged Geek does like creature adventure features in general. Paul says, Orca came to 4K on Studio Classics, one I've yet to spin. Yeah, the weirdest Richard Harris movie. Boykbot says, I would watch Sharkquake if you threatened me with it. I would watch Sharkquake if you threatened me with a speedy pelting of marshmallows. Also, if anyone made a movie called Sharkquake. There are avalanche sharks. There's a whole bunch of weird shark movies. Dogstad says, it's Father's Day in the States. Have to do my father thing. Got to go. Everyone have a great day. You too, Dogstad. And have a good Father's Day. Because here it isn't. It's another day. It's later in the year, I think. So have a good day. Richard Harris trying to one up Jaws movie, failing spectacularly, says Ronnie in about Orca. Recently watched Terror from the Year 5000. It's heavy on the trope that ugly equals evil. So many movies are, Simcat. There are just so many movies where the ugly person is bad. I mean, James Bond franchise is full of it. In the original Golfing book, Golfing was like 5 foot tall. And Dr. No had mechanical hands. Just all of the James Bond films had some kind of physical deformity. Scaramanga in The Man with the Golden Gun had 3 nipples. Peter, filmed in Super Fighterama. Thank you. Peter has super chatted. Here we go. Double hander. Aim it correctly. Maybe next time I should get out the bongo drums as well as the fart gun. Middle-aged geek girl says there are ghost sharks, voodoo sharks, 2-headed, 3-headed shark, and octopus hybrids, sand sharks. Shall I go on? No. How did Godzilla fight a giant lobster but not a mutated shark? Mutated sharks were probably a little bit more difficult to do as a practical special effect in those days. Bonkbot says avalanche sharks I can picture it. Yeah. There's also a shark exorcist. Ghost sharks. There's a ghost sharks as well. None of these movies are good. They got special effects worse than I could do on this computer. They are really, really bad. But yeah, just so many things. Let's see. Other best movies I saw this year. We Bury the Dead, which is Zach Hilditch's movie about a kind of zombie outbreak in Tasmania. And that one's good to watch. I enjoyed that one a lot. And Zach Hilditch has made a few good apocalyptic movies here in Australia, including These Final Hours. The Ugly Stepsister is a good movie to watch, a version of a Cinderella story from the viewpoint of one of the stepsisters. It's, I think, Norwegian, but it's really good. A little bit of gore in there, but as a retelling of a fairy tale, it works really, really well. Jaws the musical, says D-Leaf. Dodge Morgan says original Moonraker bomb book, no space stations or space shuttles or viruses, just a rocket and a satellite. Yeah, it did. And it's one of the few Bond novels where Bond doesn't get laid. Yeah, middle-aged geek girls found a Wikipedia entry for avalanche sharks, because of course you have. Other good movies I saw. Just let me bring up some details. So in 1937, supernatural comedy that I hadn't seen before called Topper, with Constance Bennett and Cary Grant playing ghosts of rich socialites. And the bank president of their bank that they bank with, Roland Young playing Cosmo Topper, is the only person that can see them. It's very funny. It's great. It's charming. The leads all have great rapport. Roland Young playing Topper is great. Cary Grant and Constance Bennett are terrific together. It was actually on Tubi, and I hadn't seen it, so I popped it on. And yeah, it's a hoot. I know there was a TV series with Leo G. Carroll in the 50s, but the original Topper is a lot of fun. If you've got Tubi where you are, you might want to search for it and have a nice, good time with it. Boink says, in the past 5 years, we've had 2 local cinemas go kaput. I was once able to walk to both of them. Now the nearest movie house is 5 miles away. That's not good. Small cinemas are reopening here in Melbourne, just like little movie houses, particularly in the northern suburbs, are opening again. And there's always that possibility that's in the works of the Werribee Cinema, which has been closed as a cinema for 40 years, is getting renovated and reopened. So we're doing the opposite. Friday says, I'm assuming there's a volcano shark movie. It probably is. Dodge says, Bond doesn't get laid in the Moonraker book. That's why the only Bond book in a school library, possibly. D. Lee agrees Topper is fun. Yeah, and Sim Cat says, I love Topper. I even faintly remember the TV series. Topper's worth rewatching if you can. It's on Australian Tubi, and I think it may be on American Tubi too. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, if anyone wants a cat update, they're both in the lounge with me after being outside in the cold for about 30 minutes. Yep. Topper TV shows good, says for sale. Dealer says, what's this cold? Yeah, cold weather at the moment. That's why I've got the hat on. And I've got a heater under the desk off and on every now and then. But, yeah, I don't like winter, I'll be honest with you. Hey, I've got a couple of really nasty comments on YouTube. Does anybody want me to read them out? Because I saved them. And my responses, which were even better than the comments. I think I've got 3 of them. Morning, Damien. So does anybody want me to read out the comments? Middle-aged Geek Girl says, sure. I want another vote before I go with it. Yep. Get the trolls. Here we go. This one may have been a bot. May have been, may not be. It says, oh, that's a shame. I was quite enjoying your video until you shoehorn politics into it because reasons. Don't do that, pet lamb. It's silly and serious at your age. You should know better by now. Kiss. And my reply was, my channel, my choice. If you can't take the politics, this channel isn't for you. I hope you find one that suits you better. Also, if you want to be in a condescending C word, do it elsewhere, sweetie. And I didn't say C word. So I got that one. Let me bring up another one because I laugh right. Let's see. And Kevin Payne 5584 said, hey, Terry, you like hand jobs? And I said, only where your sister or mum give them to me. What else do we get? Let's see, is there anything else? No, they're about the only real ones. I just had annoying people apart from that. Damien says, idiots and sick. Yeah, you get them occasionally, particularly if I mention that, Trump's a moron. If I say that in a video, people will really get onto their keyboards and type them with their crayons and just go to town on it. And even if I don't, if I just mention the fact that Australia has socialised medicine, I'll get a comment like that. Anyone else demanding reviews recently? Yeah, I did get that as well, Paul. I'm not going to go into that because I think that person maybe has a neurodiversity, and I don't really want to slam them any more than I already have. But yeah, that does happen. Peter says, I thank the universe for allowing the Palace cinemas to exist. They showed a double feature of Eyes Without a Face and the 1977 Suspiria in a couple of weeks. Cool. Yeah, I did a video about the 1977 Suspiria. And the weird thing about that is if you're a teenager going through what used to be called a nervous breakdown, and it's 1977, don't watch Dario Argento's Suspiria. I did a whole video about it. You can search on the channel for Suspiria. And I finally got to watch it successfully because when I tried to watch it in 1977, I had to leave the cinema. It just messed me up too much because I was going through a very bad period then. But then I finally watched it about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more. But I've got a video about that, which I'm kind of proud of. Also, I was standing on a dock while I record that video. I should do that more for movie reviews. Get out of the house and do movie reviews from exotic local locations. Do you want me to do that? Because I will. But yeah, I can rewatch the Suspiria now. I've kind of broken the curse I had. But watching it as a profoundly damaged teenager really hit me hard. And it was the one movie I ever walked out on in the cinema. Damien says, I didn't like the remake of Suspiria. I liked it in a different way than the first one. And I know Imprint are doing a 4K release of it in a month or two. And I suspect they're going to send me a copy. And I'll rewatch it then. It's got Tilda Swinton playing 3 different roles, I think, which is not a bad thing. Forsale says, witches in cinema scare me. Yeah, that's probably why I got scared by Melania. Hammer's first Dracula movie being released soon on 4K and also limited release in cinemas. Be cool to see that in the big screen for the first time for most of us, says Dodge. I saw it at the Cinemaniacs session a month or so ago. Middle-aged Geek Girl and I saw a double feature of the 1958 Hammer Dracula and The Lost Boys together. That was fun. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, Sharkano, they can film it in Hawaii. Nobody who does one of those. That was Friday too, sorry. Nobody's going to go to Hawaii to film a Sharkano movie. They're going to pretend they're in Hawaii and use stock footage. Let's be real about that. The budget's not there. But I didn't mind the remake of Suspiria, Damien. I don't think it's similar enough to the original movie to really be able to effectively do a compare and contrast. There is a Sharkano in Hawaii, says Middle-aged Geek Girl, but it's a documentary. Yeah, you dive too deeply into these genres sometimes, Hal. Let's see, what else have I got? Bad movies. Now, this one's not necessarily bad, but I didn't enjoy it. And it was one that Billy, my nephew, picked for us to watch. The SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants. I kept dozing off during it. Not because I was sleepy, because it bored me. It's a kid's movie, and usually there's enough for me in a kid's movie for me to enjoy it. But it just didn't seem to have as much fun in it as the first SpongeBob movie, where you had SpongeBob and Patrick surfing on David Hasselhoff. It did have Mark Hamill in it. I didn't recognize it was Mark Hamill until after I saw the movie. But the newest SpongeBob movie just didn't have it for me. Middle-aged Geeker says, SpongeBob's never boring, how dare you? It is. It was boring. I saw it, you didn't. So I have superior knowledge of the SpongeBob movie. D. Lee says, there's already a musical about sharks, the West Side Story. True. The Sharks and the Jets. Oh, by the way, I'm not sure whether this is still going on, but on Friday, my time, I may be going as a guest on Ryan Verrill's The Disconnected live stream. We're going to be talking about movies. I haven't worked out all the details yet, and it may well fall through. I've got to email Ryan this week, but I might be doing one of those 3 or 4 hour sessions in the middle of the day here with Ryan, who's a fantastic creator. He runs a distribution company now called Antenna, knows his movie stuff really well, and he has asked me to guest on it, but I haven't heard back from him following up on that. So look forward to that. I'll post more details in the community tab when I have them. Dodge Morgan says, wasn't George 3D really awfully scripted? Sorry about that. Yeah, it's bad, but people love it for its badness. Peter says, on Witches, have I seen the Neon Demon? Very controversial a few years ago. I've seen it, but I didn't enjoy it. Sorry about this, but it's winter here. And I've got a sinus thing. Sneezing fit, always fun. Sorry if I blew out your speakers, but this is real life. Yeah, I really did enjoy the Neon Demon. Didn't have it as much in there for me. Middle-aged good girl says, I'm just impressed you have tissues nearby. I do. And let's get to use them. Sneezing with a beard is always a problem. Yeah, so let me drink some water. That always helps. Sinuses, screw 'em. No, you can't say bless you, boink, but I'm an atheist. Also says health. Thank you. Eight minutes to go. Anything we should do the poll. Need a standby screen? Yeah, I do. It's a time of season for this. Yeah, it is, Damien. One more blow. Okay, weekly or fortnightly live stream the poll. 32% said weekly, 68% said fortnightly. So I've got to go with fortnightly. So they're going to be fortnightly live streams. Ending the poll. So it's going to be fortnightly. It's a time of season for this, definitely. Yeah, I do need a standby screen, but I don't have OBS or other software set up. Damien says, great. Yeah, the voice of the people has spoken. I'm a river to my people. Let's see. Franny and Sal are working out the Sharknado movie. Let's see, what else is good? Nuremberg's good because the bad guys lost. I didn't mind Rusty in Nuremberg. He was okay. Rami Malek, I'm less in love with as an actor. One says, I'm also an atheist. Yeah, Rami Malek. Yes, he won an Oscar, but I've never been impressed with him. But Nuremberg worked. Let's see what else we got here. Usual Things, Backrooms, and Obsession, I enjoy. If you want a gory comedy horror movie or two, Boypot says, I meant more of a fairy blessing. At that level, I will accept it. Middle-aged Giggle says, Rusty should not do accents. He's as good as me. He does okay. He doesn't do fantastically well. Let's see. What was I going to mention? There's a new Red Sonja movie that only came out a year or two ago. which I liked. It's not great. It's the usual sword and sorcery stuff, but it works kind of well, and it's it's got some nice action. It's got some nice character design in it too, which I like. Let's see who's in it. And it looks like there's a helicopter flying overhead. It stars Matilda Lutz, who is in Coralie Farge's Revenge as Red Sonja. It's got a good sense of place. Like the Hyborian age really works. And it doesn't have any big actors in it. But if you want a sword and sorcery movie that's not going to piss you off, you might want to check out Red Sonja. It works. 4-star says, looking forward to your next Terry Travels. Thank you. I will be doing it this week, and it'll be out by the end of the week probably. But they're easier to edit, and I've got about 2 or 3 ideas I can do with that one. So I will definitely be doing that one. I do them at an average at the moment about every 10 days. I want to make it down to about every week if I can. So I'll be doing that. Yeah, and I will be heading out into the countryside. And in the chat, Franny and Sal are working out their Sharkano movie. Season 3 of House of the Dragon starts tomorrow here in the UK. Looking forward to it. Is that one of the Game of Thrones prequels? Franny says, I like the Red Sonja movie. It's good fun. It is. It's better than I expected to. And that's why I've got it in my list of surprisingly satisfying. Hey, it's the summer solstice. What do we do? Dance naked around a bonfire. I'm too fatigued for such a spectacle. Being in the USA nowadays is a struggle, says Boink Boink. I can understand it is. Yeah, absolutely. And the people of goodwill have always got my support and sympathy. Winter here, winter solstice. I'm sure that a lot of the pagans I know went up to Mount Franklin, which is a natural volcanic crater covered in pine forest, about 80 kilometers northwest of here. And I know the pagans always go there during the solstice and do all sorts of self-medication and naked stuff. Boinkbot says, what about the Deathstalker remake? Have you seen that? I would check it out. I've got the original Deathstalker on 4K because Imprint put it out. Haven't rewatched it yet. I watched it back in VHS days, but I haven't rewatched it yet. But I really should get out a lot of those 4Ks that Imprint sent me of those kind of movies and just have a bit of fun with it. By the way, I've stopped sneezing. Thanks for putting up with that. It's the first time I've ever had a sneezing fit during a live stream. So thanks for tolerating that, people. D-Lee says there'll be plenty of big bonfires thanks to climate change, but no one will be dancing. Yeah, I mean, I like a bonfire. I'll be honest with you. I do like a bonfire because we used to have them on what was called Cracker Night when we used to be able to buy fireworks and all the kids would let off their fireworks around a big bonfire. That was always fun. And the grown-ups would get drunk. So something for everyone. But yeah, it's wintertime here. I do hope it'll get better. We actually had one of the warmest May in recorded history here in Melbourne. And that's a worry. Dodge says, we couldn't sacrifice any virgins at Stonehenge, couldn't find any. Yeah, and what's the thing with virginity anyway? It's not like you're doing anything. I've seen the original Deathstalker 2, which is the best, says Friday. Best title drop at the start of the movie, not seeing the remake. Damien said, I remember Cracker Night, Dad did the rockets. Yeah, we used to let off fireworks and have a great time with Cracker Night. D. Lee says, could you sacrifice incels? I don't know of a deity that would accept them. But yeah, Cracker Night was great fun. Always enjoyed it. Had a good time. We always used to. We did weird things with fireworks, like with the exploding ones, the bungers. You put them under a jam tin and put a rock on the jam tin, and all the kids would stand in a circle. And the firework would go off, and the jam tin would shoot up into the sky with the rock on it. And the first one to run lost. It taught courage and physics at the same time. Or you get the little penny skyrockets, which are about that long with a stick. And there'd be a car coming down the street, and you'd run in the middle of the road, light one, and shoot it under the car as the car was coming at you. Used to drive grown-ups mad. Middle-aged Giggle says, there was most definitely not a thing when I was a kid. That's because you're younger. Your generation ruined it for my generation as always. No, we didn't make the laws. It was the people who were like 60 years old when I was a kid who stopped us from having fun with fireworks. Kids always did weird, bad things with fireworks. Yeah, occasionally kids lost a finger, but it let us be tolerant of disability. Anyway, we're past the hour. Boinkbot says, my neighbours and Margaret cultists go berserk with fireworks around the 4th of July. It's awful, especially for dogs and cats and all living things. Yeah. Anyway, people, we really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast, our time has passed, and we must end our show. Thanks to everybody for being a part of this. It was a blast. We had a great time. We talked about movies a lot. We didn't talk politics. We had a good time. Sally and Franny worked out a movie plot. All is good. So look after yourselves. Have fun. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Well, you'll see me in 2 weeks. Sorry, I won't see you. But look after yourselves in the meantime. If you're up north, stay hydrated. If you're down here, stay warm. And I'll catch you next time.